Heidi. How's it going?
Good.
You look like a proper Southern girl there.
I do, with my little plaid shirt. It makes me laugh too because I'm such a kitschy person, and I've got all my like books and knickknacks behind me, and you have like a yellow wall, a candle, or whatever that is behind your head.
I have to keep trying to hide it so it doesn't look like this weird.
It could be like an extra ear or something up there.
Right there we go.
Oh, perfect. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm looking forward to actually being in person together.
I know.
Assuming that's going to be happening in the next number of weeks, but we've done a whole lot of trying to work through things on a screen, and I look forward to actually being in person. I think that we together will bring a really fun energy to a room.
I think so. Should we remind people who we are?
Let's do.
So I'm Kelly, and I am the liberal, non-theist, non-religious, yoga and meditation practicing massage therapist.
That's great. Very good. I can peg you so well now.
Oh, good. You got me in my box. And
in your box.
What's your box?
And I am a conservative Christian. I vote Republican. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And tell them where you live.
Oh, I'm in very progressive Seattle.
Right. And I'm in very backwards Tennessee. Yes. I only say that because I think I have this preconceived idea that that's how I am perceived. And
oh, interesting. But yeah, wow, there's so much there.
I know. It really is. Yeah. So when I hear that you are a liberal non-theist in Seattle, it immediately makes me feel defensive because whether you think it or not, I think you think that I'm backwards and old-fashioned.
Which is interesting because I was really curious when you said backwards. I was like, why are you judging yourself? Because yeah, I've been to where you live and I don't see anything backwards about it.
And I don't believe that it is. But somebody's, all the comments that we got on Facebook from our dialogue so far, but one woman had said, "What century do we live in?" After reading my post. And so that's oh my word, she thinks that I live in like the 18th century where I'm going backwards in time. I'm not a progressive. So wow. I think that's why I said the word backwards.
Mm-hmm. So tell me more about that. So you were saying that when you hear me state my box, mm-hmm. that you immediately take on the mantle of feeling judged.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I do.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I can understand how that is because I remember when when we were hanging out in junior high, we were both religious. We both went to church.
Right.
And I went to a Presbyterian church, and it was in college that I lost my religion. Everything just sort of fell apart. Things didn't make sense for me as far as that went. And so for a while there, as I was very aware of not identifying as Christian anymore, I felt that same overlay of perceived judgment whenever I would talk to somebody who did identify as Christian. And I would
were you assuming?
Yeah, a lot of assuming. And, sometimes it may be correct and sometimes it isn't correct. But what was the only thing I knew for sure was that I was judging myself through their eyes. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, I don't know whether they were judging me,
right.
but I was judging myself and telling myself that they were judging me.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Which I think is probably one of the reasons why we put up walls because I don't know if you think that I'm backwards. And so I'll keep this little wall right here just in case you do. And be on my guard. And I'm also going to be listening for everything that you say to see if I can find any evidence for you thinking that I'm backwards. And if I hear any little bits of that, I'll be like, and that's just what I thought. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Even if it isn't true, I'm going to take your words and make them fit what I already think you think about me.
Right, right. And I think the only thing that's really interrupted that process for myself has, like, one, becoming very clear that I'm a good person. Like, and that's really hard. I mean, that takes personal work, however people want to do it. But in my own process, like, the more I feel confident that I'm essentially a really okay, good person, then I don't really worry what other people are thinking about me, and it allows me to be more present with them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what for you helps you take that overlay off of assuming that people are judging you? Or, like, how do you work with that when you find that in play?
So within my worldview, I believe that the Bible is the word of God, and I was brought up with that concept. And so for me, then if I think that someone thinks that I might be backwards, or when I read something like "What century is that?" then I do the same thing as you. I go, well, no, actually, I'm following the Lord the best way that I know how. And so essentially I'm saying that that I am doing what I know to be right. And I can't do any different if I'm going to be true to who I am and who I believe I'm called to be. So I think it's the same thing. Like, I have to trust who I am and what I believe and who I'm called to be. And if I'm going to be honest about who I am, I can't pretend to be something else. And I can't pretend to believe something else if that's true. So
I love that. I really do see the similarity there.
Right. And I think I can see for both of us that we have to stand in a place where we say, this is who I am, and I'm okay with that.
And what strikes me is it takes responsibility off of the other person and I reclaim it, because as long as I'm really concerned about how they're perceiving me, somehow they then hold responsibility to change and to stop perceiving me in a way that I don't want to be perceived.
Yes.
Right. So, and I can see that the way you do it and the way I do it are similar. It's sort of like releasing the need for control.
Yeah, very much, very much. I remember a counselor asking me, Heidi, are you able to let go of your need to control what other people think of you? And can you give them the freedom to believe whatever in the world they want? Can you give them the freedom to believe that you are backwards and terrible and, whatever else they want to say about you? Can you give them the freedom? Because in all honesty, none of us can control it anyway. So we spend so much energy trying to make other people see us the way that we want to, when, there's a lot of image management, and we expend a lot of needless energy because people are going to see you the way they want to see you.
Exactly. And, I'm just sitting here just mentally trying to track, going back to when we opened with our boxes. how you shared that it triggers that part of you that thinks I'm judging you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've gone back. Well, I've come to Nashville a few times, when I came to town to take yoga classes at a property that's outside of Nashville. And it was interesting. I loved hanging out with you, and the experience wasn't one of judging you. It was that same thing of like, I don't know how much of myself I can show you, because you might try to do an exorcism or something. Well, and that's just a silly way of saying, like, you might see me as doing something that you really disapprove of.
So there was a part of you then
was feeling the same.
Afraid, and that was afraid that I was judging you.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And it wasn't really, and it's interesting because if you were having that experience of me and I was having that experience of you, what strikes me is that we weren't really in judgment. The only thing we were judging of the other person was the other person's capacity to just accept us.
Yeah. I do remember, I don't remember the specifics, which is so interesting to me because I realized that we come away remembering someone's attitude a lot more than we come away remembering exactly what they said. And I know there's research to back that up.
Yeah.
I remember a conversation that we had at my in-laws' house at their table. And all I can remember is that it got heated.
Yeah.
And there came a point when we suddenly backed away and we were like, oh, wow, okay. And here's where we need to stop because this isn't helping us connect on a heart level. And we're not getting anywhere trying to convince each other of anything from a cognitive level. So we just need to stop and love each other. And I remember that very distinctly. And like I said, I don't remember exactly what we said or even what we talked about, but I remember the experience of going, okay, and this is not working. It's not helping our friendship and it's not working. So let's do it different. And I felt like from that point on, we did. We're like, you know what? Let's find ways that we're able to connect outside of all the ways that we differ. And we were able to do that. Which this is evidence of that for me.
Right. And I so wish I could remember that instant. I remember other instances, but that's interesting that was like, enough of a shock to your system that you remembered it, and I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
I wish I did. Yeah. What I'm aware of is like how we have been interacting since the election. To me, like this level of connection we've been having has been so profoundly open and easy.
I know.
In a way that I think I've only experienced with you when we were in junior high, when we were really like on the same page of belief, right? And I've been sort of mulling over it, and it's been a really good experience for me because as much as I want to, I still will have that part of me reserved and held back when I'm with people who believe differently and who have so many who have so many different ways of voting and believing and talking and so this has been a really good experience for me because I am really learning firsthand that this is possible for anyone.
Yeah.
And that I can have deep connection and that I can feel such a confidence that I'm being seen, that you're seeing me at the level that I want to be seen, which is just my basic humanity.
Right.
And that,
I'm not afraid to show you who I am, and you're not afraid to show me who you are.
right.
Trust, because I have to trust that you're not gonna attack me, or you know, that you're not gonna be disrespectful in the way that you talk about my worldview. I have to trust you, and you have
Right.
to trust me, because otherwise we're not gonna show each other. I'm not gonna show you my heart if I think you're gonna stomp all over it.
Right.
I'm gonna be super guarded with that.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, but it's like getting to that place takes a leap of faith, as it were, you know, and somebody has to be willing to say, hey, I'm taking this leap of faith
Yeah.
because I am guessing that you can handle it. And maybe you can't, but I'm putting it out there that maybe you can handle it. Somebody has to open up.
Yeah.
And it happened in that interaction that we had. Like, you made this offering of your blog post, and I could have totally done what any other of those commenters from my side of the aisle may have, you know, done. Like, what century are we in? Like, that's just ridiculous. But it's like, for whatever reason, I was able to give an offering back of like, okay, I hear you. I'm having a hard time with this, and help me see more.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's not a shutdown, it's an invitation.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you gave me an invitation back, and it was like, okay, we can talk.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And then your message to ask if I would be interested in working together on a dialogue project like this, or what we're calling the Heart Perception Project.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, I think I told you this, but I just sat there in the car reading your message, my eyes filled with tears, could not even believe this incredible opportunity that we had been given to try to accomplish this, and to connect in a deeper way. It's beautiful, and it just is rare. And that's part of it. I was like, what? You gotta be who does this? I mean, our whole world is at odds, and our nation is so divided.
Right.
But this needs to happen, and I
does.
feel very called to it. And I think for the last, goodness, I don't know how many years, well, quite a few years ago, I was asked to speak on how to have tough conversations at a workshop, at a conference. It was called the Courageous Conversations Conference. So it was my job to set up every one of the keynote speakers with a communication technique. So each of the keynote speakers brought up an extremely controversial topic. And so before the 10 minutes before they spoke, I had to give a communication technique on how the small groups then were going to break out and use my techniques to talk about this controversial topic. And when I was asked to do that initially, I thought, what?
Right.
I'm the last person you should be asking, because they think I'm terrible at telling them. I hate them. So it was a big leap of faith for me to even do it. Well, I went ahead and did it. And at the end of the conference, a publisher and senior editor from a publishing company came up and said, would you be interested in writing a book on this? And I said, oh, definitely. You don't know I'm terrible at them, but yes, of course, I would love to write. So that sent me on a quest for trying to do lots of research. And of course, I ended up having many experiences in tough conversations too, to see how my different theories were actually playing out in reality. And that publishing company ended up falling apart. They restructured and ended up telling me they were going in a different direction. But here I was in the middle of this, and I couldn't let it go. So I'm still in the process. That was 2 or 3 years ago now, and I'm still in the process of writing it, because I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm still learning. So I very much see this right in the target of everything that I've been studying and writing. So it feels like it's right in line with my passion and how I'm wired, and learning to have those courageous conversations from a place of the heart that isn't, I am not about trying to change you. I am about being open to God changing me, and to how I can become a different woman in this process. So it's a place of humility for sure, but it's a great opportunity.
Oh yeah. I that's a good story. I am I felt like I was imagining myself being in that situation going, oh my gosh.
Like,
So two things. I'm really getting that connecting is part releasing our need to change people.
yeah.
And it's also releasing our need to defend ourselves, you know, because as long as we're defended, we are less willing to create openings and receive offerings from other people,
Yes.
the invitation from people.
Right.
And that's tricky because we're defended when we're afraid of getting hurt. And so I think that goes back to somehow like getting very clear on our own knowledge of our own goodness, and also our own knowledge of we can handle it. You know, like if we understand that somebody's coming at us in anger, it's not about us, it's about them, and it's about their fear and their pain. And so
Can you go back and tell me the story of how you became interested in nonviolent communication? Was there a certain situation or an interaction, or did you witness something that made you say, oh my goodness, I need to learn more about this?
I really no, it was more of I had this group of friends that were living in a intentional community house.
You told me that, yeah.
Right. And one of them was trained by Marshall Rosenberg himself. I mean, so
Really?
he was one of the main trainers in nonviolent communication. And it was really interesting to watch these people interact. And at first it was like, are you kidding me? Like every time somebody would say, like, oh, I'm feeling really frustrated, you know, the other person would say, so I'm hearing that you're feeling a fair amount of frustration right now, and I'm seeing that you are pretty agitated. So it's like on one hand it's easy to make fun of that, but then on the other hand, the more I witnessed it, the more I was like, oh, wow, I really love being around these people because they just really listen to each other, and you know they're listening to each other because they tell each other what they're hearing from each other.
Yes.
And not reinterpreting it.
Right.
And so that just led me to want to take a class with Carl, the man who trained with Marshall. And I think I shared last time, but like the experience of coming out of that workshop, like after 8 hours of deeply listening to people, I had never felt such a sense of deep well-being and calm, you know, so.
Yeah. It's just that experience of someone listening to you is
Right.
that's I am connected with the Applied Theater Center in Greenville, South Carolina, and they do a lot of work with oppressed people groups, to the homeless and abused and folks in prison, and just so many different oppressed people groups, to give them a forum to tell their story. And then there are actors even that hear their story and then we'll play that for them as an offering. And they even, at the very end of the scene, they do this, like, I'm offering your story back to you. And that
Wow.
all of the people are able to hear their story with them while they are experiencing their own story. And it is powerful because they feel like they've been heard and they're known, and their experience is now a shared experience. It's that isolation that can happen when someone has experienced something, or a lifetime of something difficult. To be heard and for now it to be a shared experience is so transformational.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just really get that what we deeply want is to be seen
Yes. Yes.
and listened to,
Understood.
understood. Yes.
And known.
Mhm.
Yeah, very much.
So,
Well, I look forward to seeing you and knowing you more, because we honestly have had very few interactions over the years, except those few times that you came to Nashville, the time that we got to spend together in
and
California.
the 20-year high school reunion.
Our 20-year high school. But getting to at some point come to Seattle and be with you there, and to see your home and your community and your family, and that it's going to be a joy for me.
Yeah, I really look forward to that. So, and I very much appreciate our interactions and our conversations.
Me
And
too.
I look forward to our next one.
Little by little.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
Kelly. Bye.
Bye.